There was just a beautiful monsoon storm that went by, and the power is gone. So I'm going to just record it with this kind of weird lighting. I tried flashlight from the iPhone, but I'm not sure it'll work very well. Let's see. Does it work? Makes me look weird. Okay. So let's look at the next one on coming attractions called living buildings. So this goes way beyond what we looked at before, called leadership in environmental and energy design. Here is a building that is built on the concept of a living building challenge. LEED certification, which has, I think, silver, gold, and platinum levels, focuses on design, construction, maintenance, and operations with the metrics that include lumens of light, water, energy use, cleaning products, daylighting, indoor air quality, renewable energy, and so on. Whereas Jason McLennan and the Cascadia Green Building Council, 6 years after LEED was established, offered the so-called Living Building Challenge, and we'll see what that means. So LBC, a Living Building Challenge, is also a building certification program with the core principles and performance categories. There are 7 categories called petals: place, water, energy, health, happiness, materials, equity, and beauty. So the idea is that if something appeals to people, then they will preserve it. So make the buildings living monuments. So this is a schematic from the livingfuture.org, which now owns and runs the Living Building Challenge. And it's simply saying that the Living Building Challenge is a philosophy, certification, and advocacy tool for projects to move beyond merely being less bad and to become truly regenerative. So it's not just that you reduce your impact, that you actually have positive impact, including generating waste that is a contribution to something positive. So negative environmental impacts are tried to be reduced by building codes, green technologies, green methods, and high performance metrics, and so on. Whereas LBC wants to transition over into the sustainable domain as a living building challenge with positive environmental impacts. This is a summary matrix I won't go into, but the typology includes new buildings, existing buildings, interior, and the landscape and infrastructure around it. There is a core imperative that we will look at. There is scale jumping allowed, hand printing imperative required for typology, requirement dependent on scope, not required for typology. So essentially the designers and the owners of the buildings are left to make their choices on these things. So under petal here we looked at place, water, energy, health and happiness, materials, equity, and beauty, and we will go through these 20 steps in terms of imperatives in a minute. Here are the imperatives. Limits to growth: only build on a previously developed site, not on or adjacent to virgin land. Urban agriculture: a living building must have the capacity to grow and store food based on its floor area ratio. Habitat exchange: for each acre of development, an acre of habitat must be set aside in perpetuity. So forever something is set aside. Human-powered living: a living building must contribute to walkable, bikeable, pedestrian-friendly community. Net positive power: rainwater capture and recycling must exceed usage, so you are generating water. Net positive energy: at least 105% of the energy used must come from on-site renewables, so you're producing more than you are using. Civilized environment: a living building must have operable windows for fresh air, daylight, and views. So you know that most of the high-rise buildings now do not have windows that can be opened. This can be very frustrating in hotels and so on, where you want to open the window and let fresh air in, but they're all sealed. Healthy interior environment: a living building must have impeccably clean and refreshed air. Biophilic environment. Design must include elements that nurture the human and nature connection. Red list. A living building must contain no toxic material or chemicals per LBC Red List. They have a list that they provide you. Embodied carbon footprint. Carbon embodied in construction must be offset. Responsible industry. All timber must be Forest Stewardship Council certified or come from salvage or the building itself, building site itself. So salvage is where you get it from other deconstructed buildings. Living economy sourcing. Acquisition of materials and services must support local economies. Net positive waste. So construction must divert 90 or 100% of the waste by weight. Human scale and humane places. The project must meet special specifications to orient towards humans rather than cars. So it must be made accessible by people and not build huge parking lots so people can drive in and park. Universal access to nature and place. Infrastructure must be equally accessible to all, and fresh air, sunlight, and natural waterways must be available. Equitable investment. 0.5% of investment dollars must be donated to charity. Just organization. At least one entity involved must be a certified just organization indicating transparent and socially just business operations. Beauty and spirit. Public art and design feature must be incorporated to elevate and delight the spirit. Then it's assumed that human beings will want to preserve it. Inspiration and education. A project must engage in educating children and citizens. So it becomes a place where people visit to learn about the concept of the Living Building Challenge and how living buildings actually work. This is the Brock Environmental Center built by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation at Pleasure House Point in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Completed in 2014, it produces all of its drinking water from rainfall, uses 90% less water than a commercial building of the same size, and generates 83% more energy than it consumes. 83% more energy than it consumes. The Brock Center is the first commercial building in the United States allowed to treat and process rainwater to federal potable standards. In general, the gray water standards are not fully established, but this one got special permission to treat and process rainwater for federal potable standards. So this is the future: living building challenge and living buildings. So naturally include all the things we care about and the environment needs and wants.